Hello friends, welcome back. This video is Angular developer series for the e-commerce application and this is episode 2. In the previous video, we were able to build this template, sample template into our Angular application. We were able to get this, and this video we are going to see the data bindings and the Angular structural directives. We will take this piece of code and convert and see how it works, and we're going to take this also and rebuild it using data bindings and the Angular directives. So without delay, come let's get started. Alright, now those who are new to this video, please go to this github.com and I will give you in the description. This is the place where you get the complete Angular code. So for the previous video, you will see a branch called feature/EP1 initial setup, and that branch we're going to take and build the episode 2. So by the time you see this video, you will see another branch called EP2 underscore data binding. So you can go and take that piece of code. You can either take this and follow along with me, or feel free to go and check the completed code. I have opened up the code and exactly the same thing. So we will start with this, right? So in order for us to take this component, right? So this section, we're going to create a component. Though that piece is basically the product category. So I'm going to create, first let's stop it. So we're going to create it. So before that, how do you start this application, right? You can use ngserve, or you can also use the command in the package.json. So under the script, whatever we have it here, right, you can also use that. So those who are new, this is just an information that if you use npm run and the script name, it will actually take the script that is put there and then it will start building. So in our case, we just started the application a little differently. So we got the application. Now we're going to take this particular part and see what we can do. Now let's open up another terminal and create a component. So ng generate component, and here this is product category. So I'm gonna create a product category component under the product folder. So this is how you create, and that's it. A component was generated and the app module was updated. We'll talk about it app module a little bit more in the next video, but let's say we just created a component and we started doing it, right? So now the one that you looked at is under the hero component.html. Let's minimize this. So I'm going to cut this whole section and move this to the new component, and let's first make sure it works. After we move certain piece of code, we just need to make sure everything works as it is working today, right? So I have moved the code. Now you know how to use the component. You use the selector name and that's how it builds the component, right? So let's run and see if still it works. Great, it is exactly working. So the movement of code doesn't impact anything. Now what we are going to do is we are going to go to this component and create and now we are going to take a look at the data bindings. The first one in the data binding is called Oneway Binding. Okay, and that is also called interpolation. So interpolation means it's one of the binding in the data binding concept, and that's the one that we are going to take a look. Okay, I'm going to paste some description here. So we are going to use an expression. So how do we do it? You look at here, there is something called all department. Let's see how this one-way binding works. Let's go to the component and create a variable. See, when you create a variable, those who are new for this, you declare a name, and then if you say equal to and then whatever you type, based on whatever is in the right side, that will determine, here in this case it's a string because it's a single quotes. So title is becoming a string automatically. This is called type inference. Okay, there is another good way of doing it called you specify what type is it. So I'm specifying title is a string. That's why this is a good way. So this will be like, it will force you to not assign any numbers because it's a string, right? Unless you put a single quotes, it won't allow you. So we will always go with most of the times we will go with a proper way of declaring what variable type is. Okay, instead of going to the infer the state. All right, so now how do you use, in order to use the one-way binding, interpolation? So use the double curly brace both the side and then put the variable name. So it will evaluate this title variable name which is coming from the component, and we replaced, like whatever is coming here is automatically refreshed here. You see this D become a capital letter. So now you know this is how you use from component to the UI. That's called one-way binding, right? You can also use inbuilt functions like title is a string, right? Dot length is possible, so it's just counting the number of characters, but we are not going to do all of these works, but I'm just telling you, you can actually use those kind of property as well. Now the next important thing that we are going to dive in is the Angular structural directives. So let's first create a variable called categories, and here categories will be an array of item. I'm going to paste for saving some time. So basically, in future we will be using this category derived from the web API, but for now let's go with what we have. Okay, we haven't gone to the service layer yet, so stick with me. This is how you learn one by one. So we have defined a array variable, and array has two properties in each item, category ID and category name. See, basically when you start using Angular directives, it is structural directives. Basically it is changing the structure of the DOM. DOM means object, document object model. Okay, I'm going to give some informations here so you can read through it. So basically what happened is, earlier you had n number of li statement, right? So when you use one of the Angular structural directive that we are going to use now, it will actually create those n number of li for us. Okay, so like I said, Angular structural directive means it is changing the structure of the DOM, which is nothing but document object model. The very first one that we'll use is ngFor. Remember, you should put a star and then ng small letter f capital letter. We are saying let C of categories. So it will temporarily take each item of the category variable array, put it into C. Now C will become item of the array. So C dot category name will bring in the category name of the each item that it is iterating. So basically this li element that you see, line number 7, will be repeatedly pasted by the Angular in the DOM. But when you look at here, you see this, the code is very simple, right? Very simple HTML, one line of code, but it magically does this n number of li element for us. If so, where you put this ngFor is important. If you put it in UI, the whole element will be repeated. In our case, just the li has to be repeated, so we're good. That's how you use this what do you call this, the Angular structural directive. Now there is something called property binding in the data binding. Property means any HTML that has a lot of properties, right? One of the property of the span is the inner HTML, right? So you can use the inner HTML, like the property binding means basically it's also one-way binding, but you're tying up to a property of an element. You just need to use the square bracket to determine that you are defining the title content into this inner HTML. Okay, so when you learn, you will understand this. So property binding and interpolations, this is how you use. We are defining this title. See, still it is working, right? All right, so we learned a couple of things here. Now this works good. Now let's make our code better and better, because our aim is to become a good UI developer in terms of, if you are searching for a job and all, you need to be really good. So let's create a constant file under the shared folder. Okay, we call it as data.model.ts, and I'm going to move the category from that component to here, because so that we can reuse this in many other components. We don't need to repeat this. Do not repeat yourself. There's a famous saying. Okay, so now because you're doing an export constant, the constant will be exported, so you can import it in the different file. So this category is imported, the page is still working. Now let's make little more better. That's the concept called interface. So let's have a model folder, and under the model folder I'm going to create an interface called category interface. So here you need to specify export interface product category. Product category is basically a name that I have given, based on the whatever we are doing. So it's a category, it's a product related, so that's why product category. Okay, you can name whatever you want. Now we will move this code, right? We don't move, but we will force this model to have this interface. So first, in order to define this interface, we will have two properties here. One is category ID that belongs to a number, and then category name that is a string. So under this interface, two properties there. It's basically like if you have used the backend service, it's like a class and a property, right? That is what exactly it is. We're defining its property and its data type. Now here, if you force like this, which means categories is of type product category array of product category. See, everything looks good. The type was inferred automatically. This is how you do be a good developer. You have to be like that. All right. Now I'm going to run this application locally and tell you how we are going to deal with the product. See, product, when we call eventually call the get endpoint for the products, right? This is how the product API is returning. So based on the model that is returning from an API, I'm going to create another interface for the product. So exactly same, this one, whatever I copy paste, that will exactly match with the API that is returning the model, including the property name. That way it is easy to auto map. We don't need to manually do a map. Okay, so this is how you define an interface. It's now matching with the endpoint. So for good. Okay, now let's place some sample data, which for time saving, I have already done the sample data. Eventually we will replace this with the endpoint by calling an API. Okay, so let me first copy paste a sample data. Sample data will be forced to have how our endpoint will be returning, so that when we switch from the sample data to the calling the web API, there won't be any code change required. Everything will magically work. Great. Now if you come to the feature section component, right, there's a piece of code where the category is listed. So I'm going to use the category here and then bring in the category from the exported, like the data model that we have, right? That's why I said we will use the reuse it. Now there is something called lifecycle hook, but don't worry about it. I'm going to use one of the lifecycle hook here, which is on init. Okay, on init means it's one of the lifecycle hook. Do not worry, I will talk about lifecycle hook in a separate video. But let's imagine this is like a lifecycle page, like page lifecycle. When the component is initiated, this is the second lifecycle which will be triggered. In that lifecycle also, you can actually assign the categories. Okay, so now once you assign, I'm just giving you different flavors, so that you know how to you will be learning a lot of things. Now here also the same concept. I'm going to remove all the li and put just one li. We're going to use the ngFor, the Angular structural directive, and then we repeatedly loop through the categories. The exactly same what we did for the other component, right? Let's remove all of these things. We don't need it. When you get this code, you might see some more extra code for the data filters and all. Feel free to explore it. See, everything works good. Okay, so now we were able to, you see this, everything came here, right? So no handwritten, everything is dynamic. You change the data will change here. Now next thing is product, because the same feature section component is only having the product section. So here we are going to bring in the sample product and assign it to the products variable. Okay, so Control A, Control K, Control F will prettify your code. Now here is the important thing, right? So you see this one section, except that one section I'm going to remove everything, because they have actually repeated the same section. Now we are going to use the ngFor and repeat our product sample data. The first thing that you need to understand is, like, when you start doing development, right, you first bring in your HTML and make sure everything looks good. Then you apply the Angular concept. Okay, that's my way of doing it. That will be easy to achieve. So in this case, I know where to put. This is the whole, like, line number 18. That's the whole section that I want, right? Now if I put it here, the inner div is rotated. I mean, like, many times it is repeated, but we have placed this ngFor in a wrong side. That's why it was not coming properly. Basically we need to put this section in the top div. Okay, because that's the whole section that we want. See, now it looks good. So it's okay to do mistake, sometimes I do intentionally to showcase how it works. So we have repeated the product. Now how do you replace this? In the product, under the images, like product images, which is an array type, right, you can see all of these things in the JSON format. The good way of doing is just do an interpolation and then do a pipe symbol and JSON. See, it is stringifying the object and showing you. This is the quick way of doing debugging of what data is coming to the UI. So now I know what property I need to use. So I'm going to replace this section into product images of the first one. Like I just always want to pick up the first image, so I'm going through the index of 0, and you see this, all the beautiful 8 images came. So now I don't need this, I'm gonna clean up this. Now exactly same, right? Product dot price and product dot name is what will go here. So having doing all of these things, what will happen, right? Now this one piece of line number 18 to line number 33, this piece of code is repeated n number of times. N is nothing but the number of product that we have. Very great. Now as and when you click, something has to happen, which is filtering of the product. That is what we are going to take a look next. So far I believe you're following. Let's move on with the good spirit. Now we are going to assign a variable called selected category. Like when you click, we will assign that category as the selected category ID. Okay, so selected category ID is of type number, and initially we will assign it to -1. Now here comes the next logic. So we haven't done anything called functions, right? So let's write a function called filter by category. It accepts a category ID as an input, and then it assigns the incoming category ID to the selected category ID. So whenever you click on that item, right, we are going to call this method. After that, we will be calling another method called filter products by category. That's where the other method comes. See, either you can do like, you can define it, or you can write it by your own hand. But basically, some refactoring is out of the box. Here's a simple logic. I am checking if the selected category ID is -1, assign the whole sample product, which means whenever user is clicking on all, we need to present all the images. Similarly, if it is other than -1, they have clicked on something else. So we need to filter the product with the category ID. So we need to filter the items products with the category ID. So now next thing, whatever you're seeing right now, is called event binding. So under the data binding, the third concept is called event binding. Event binding means anything that is like the event, like click, double click, mouse over, mouse move, all of those called events. In order to use that, you just need to use parenthesis and then say click, call the function. Okay, function or anything that is executed when you click on it. See, I'm clicking on it, it is now filtering properly. Now let's do a little more beautiful thing. I'm going to use another Angular directory called ngIf. Okay, so star ngIf. Now the product length is like there is nothing after filtering. Then we present this div, which is no product for the selected category. So this is all presented, everything looks good, the top menu is ready. And let's recap, right? So in this episode, we covered the interface declaration, sample data, data binding, Angular, structural directives, all of those things, right? I hope you enjoyed this video. I believe you're following up with me. In the next video, we will see the next concept in the Angular, as and will we be building the project. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and give me a like and have your comments in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more tech tutorials. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when we post new videos. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Happy coding!